I love Puerh. I love Puerh so much. For the last 10 years, it's been my main interest, obsession, really. For most of this time, I've had a different job, but actually, most of my time was still spent on Puerh. I really, really wanted to know as much as I could about it. I still do. Maybe the first 10 years have passed, but the next 10 come. And I traveled to Asia to find the people that knows the most about Puerh I could find. And the person that I call my main teacher, Limping Xiang, is certainly the most knowledgeable person in Puerh I know. There might be others. There might be others that only speak Chinese and I have not been exposed to. I don't know, because I travel far and wide looking for people with understanding of tea. But certainly he is the most knowledgeable I know of. And he's such a... This video. This video counts because I've seen him teaching. I've seen him communicating how to tell the quality of tea, tell the authenticity of tea, and just seeing him teaching, I've just been really, really touched. And he's been the person that with the most clear delivery. So anyway, I hope to share the knowledge I've learned until now. I chose to learn about Puerh only because I wanted to know one thing well, as opposed to know about all tea a little bit. And I'm glad, because there's so much to learn even only about this. And my areas of interest are, well, from both like the very, very old trees. So for instance, like the extreme of this is things like this. This comes from one single big tree. The biggest tree in the garden we could find, we pressed that as, that was about 2.1 kilos of molasses. We pressed that as 10 to 100 gram cakes, all the way to really, really old Puerh. So for instance, this is a 1970s Gong cake. And, oh, by the way, this is an 88 Ximbing. Actually, not particularly great and definitely not worth the money tea, but, I figured it out after a long time, after I got it. And then in the middle, of course, there is the first age Gushu Puerh cakes. So, for example, this is the 2001 Manjuan Shen Hao. This is one of the very, very early Puerh Gushu cake made after the 1950s. This is an example of a young elite, as big as it gets, as big as we could, not as big as we could find, as big as there is tree in Yiwu. They have different charm, but in a sense, the principles are very much the same. Of course, between young tea and the older tea, there's a strong difference of texture and flavors. But like the energy they give you, the aftertaste they leave, those two are points of commonality, regardless of what the age of the tea is. And things like this is things that I've only figured out after a long time. In fact, if I hadn't traveled to spend a lot of time with the teachers and people I have, I probably would know about 5-10% of what I know right now. It's really, really easy to just get into a trip when you're home and just like brewing tea and you think because you've never been exposed to different ideas, but then somebody like my teacher points out a few things and you're like, whoa, I get it now. Of course, the self-practice is needed and it's probably going to be the main part of your journey, as it was for mine. But having somebody, in this case, me, for you, that can point out a few things really, really accelerates the learning and the enjoyment of the art of Gong Fu so much. I am particularly interested in, I suppose, the authenticity of things. So being able to tell, this is really ancient tree, this is really from a certain terroir, this is really an old tea. Because in a world of Chinese tea where there's a lot of stories, the more we can try and relate and try and find some objective facts. Another topic is there pesticide or not on this tea? Is this first spring or second spring? So the more we can find some objective fact from our own taste, the more everything is easier. Your enjoyment is easier, buying tea for the long term is easier. Then going down the subjective-objective scale, the quality of tea. So why certain terroirs are better than others? What are the characteristics I'm paying attention to? At first, one will pay attention to things more like texture and sweetness, and one might not like bitterness. Somebody might like bitterness a lot. But there are things that kind of go deeper in the body, as I was mentioning, like the aftertaste, the energy of how the tea makes you feel, the kind of sense of freshness and cleanliness that is left after a session. All these things can be arguably deeper. And yeah, once you start to look at them, you kind of start to drink tea in a different way. I've made it my life mission not only to learn as much as I can about Puerh, but to try and advance the state of knowledge in the West. So with efforts like trying to share how to tell really ancient tea, how to tell what is really old tea, of course by the tea we offer. So we try to do advancing the state of the art sort of work. It's not done before. It's not done before that we know of, not to this extent. When I say we, I mean with my wife, with the rest of our team in Taiwan and China. And this is really my interest. Try to share more about tea, and particularly in ways that have not been available before. Puerh really has a lot of depth, and as such is a subject a lot of modern day philosopher, artists for a wide version of this term, which could include entrepreneurs, which could include professionals, which could include just people that want to know more about themselves and a very particular topic. Anyway, all these kind of people will find this very interesting, and I would love to share what I've learned so far with you.